I'm late. I'm late. I'm late. I'm late. I'm late. I'm late for a very important date. Oh, hell. That's not what I wanted to do. Yes, that's what I wanted to do. I'm fixing my, let's see here. Generals. Oh, okay. I'm just making everything nice for everybody. Okay, let's see here. Got to get all this done. Yes, that's lovely. How is everybody? Yes, is it bright enough? I try to get this nice and, ooh, that's too bright. Um, you want people to see the cards, as they say. Is that good? I think that's good. I don't know. Okay, let's see here. Reset. Okay, let's see here. And blur. Blur the background. We'll do a little bit of a blur. What do you guys think? Yeah, a little bit of a blur. Just to make me look more mysterious and sexy and all of that. My apologies for being late. Speaking of being sexy, which I try to be often, um, I was making myself beautiful for you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah. I think I need to a mirror. I mean, I need to do away with that mirror. Okay, there we go. All right. Beautiful for you, baby. Yes. I did a little makeup. I got up at 5 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Don't you just love lavender? This is me in lavender. Take me. This is me in lavender. No, I got up at 5 in the morning. Here's my yes. I practice every day. Yeah, I got up at 5, fed the cat. Cat was happy about that, and fell back asleep until 10 in the morning. But I did make myself a lovely coffee, and we are on a journey to discover the best possible coffee. So, yeah, we can talk about that. Of course, in the house, give all power and gratitude to the person who's really in charge here, the person that runs the show, the person that could shut this whole puppy down in a heartbeat because he got the power. Give it up to the real power of every show, whether it's Saturday Night Live or a little tiny show like this. The power is always with the floor director. So give it up to Joel Tilson. He came in one day and started organizing my notes. And that was what was that, 4 or 5 years ago, and he hasn't left since. And we're grateful he's here. So I'm gonna just put this down. Hold on. Yes, floor directors. They have a reputation in entertainment. I wrote an article about the floor directors in when I was an extra on Conehead and what those poor floor directors were subjected to because they're in the ring and they're having to give direction to the actors and yes, it's a rough job. It's a rough job. It's a rough job. Anyway, how is everybody? Talk to me. Excuse me. Oh my goodness, I need to wake up. Um, what's happening here? I've got to, okay. All right. Looks like there's some problems with a live stream over at X, but X is not a big deal. As long as you can see me over at Facebook. Looks, hi Debbie over in Facebook, Margie in Facebook, Grace over at Facebook. Hello. All right, so welcome to my brunch. This is our Sunday brunch. We get together every Sunday if I am able to do so. Sometimes I travel, though I've decided not to travel as much as I used to. Anyway, so Yeah, we get together every Sunday and we read cards. We make predictions. And if that's fun for you and you've got nothing better to do on your Sunday, then please join us. We extend our brunch table to the four corners of the earth. And my table, the first table that we set, is in Portland, Oregon. And for breakfast, I will be having an ice water. This has been filtered, but the municipal water in Portland is pretty good. We don't put fluoride in our water, and but I do, and it's a very soft water, so you can have a filter longer in Portland than say someplace that has a harder water. But anyway, I like to have a filtered water in the morning. I do have ice, which I know is not good for your digestion if you wake up with cold digestion in the morning to add more cold, but I do it because, yeah, you get older, you get hot flashes. Speaking of hot flashes, nothing's going to set you off for a hot flash more than a cup of coffee, this is how I start my day. A cup of coffee, it is whole milk. I found that I use less milk if I use whole milk. And that I was just like pouring, because I didn't taste like anything. So I was just pouring the low fat. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to whole milk. And then I use less of it. So, yes, and a little bit of naughty sugar or monk fruit is usually, I'll do a couple cups of this. Now, for breakfast, I always have the same thing. I have a protein shake. I like to do that, and I usually have my protein shake sometime around noon. I'll break my fast with that. I like Protein and Greens by Paradise. I put some fruit in there, some flax in there, some almond milk. I whip it up. Sometimes I put some peanut butter powder in it. Protein and Greens by Paradise, which is the most nutrient dense. Anyway, there you go. That's my breakfast. Be sure and tell me what you're eating and drinking today and how you are enjoying this blessed Sunday. February 22nd. We also want to make an announcement that we are raising funds for a charity. If any part of today's show is entertaining for you, please think about donating to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yes, the Southern Poverty Law Center. Apathy is not an option. Apathy, wouldn't we all love to be apathetic? Apathy would be great. But alas, we live in a sick world where bad, horrible things are going on. So, in honor of the month of February and African American history, we want to also let people know that we're raising money for uh, programs and organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center. So let's talk a little bit about this organization. I believe they're 100 years old. Are they close to 100 years old? Certainly, they've got an amazing reputation, and they are working on things that have to do with racial justice, strengthening democracy, and voting rights. This is the number one issue that they're tackling. They were very active when well, some would argue Harris had her election stolen from her, dismantling white supremacy, ending unjust imprisonment, something I'm very passionate about, and eliminating poverty and economic inequality. Also, what I am pretty passionate about because I've been pretty vocal about being a democratic socialist. So these are programs that we feel strong about because we are entering the upside down. We are entering the upside down, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, if anything is entertaining to you, then please think about donating to Southern Poverty Law Center. So, we've talked about it, haven't we? Right, we've talked about this idea that we are entering into the upside down. What what is the upside down? The ideas that you and I share used to be considered conventional American ideas. They were the ideas that a lot of middle class American Christian salt of the earth believed in, right? And then something goes awry. And all of the sudden, we have a power vacuum happening. So we have to ask ourselves at this time, who do we want to live next door to? That is the spiritual question that we all need to ask ourselves. Who do you want as a next door neighbor? It doesn't matter, and to get off this insulting each other over political, which I just think is divide and conquer. It's an old tactic. Don't buy into it. Stop insulting people. I think that most of us have that realization. Would you rather live next to Jeffrey Epstein Who do you want to live next door to? Who do you want to raise kids next to? Or do you want to live next to George Bailey? Do you want to live next to Jeffrey Epstein or do you want to live next to George Bailey? Right? Because these ideas of fighting against the banks and fighting against aristocrats for the common man is very much in keeping with what used to be American values.
Borrow money. What does that get us? A discontented, lazy rabble instead of a thrifty working class. And all because a few starry-eyed dreamers like Peter Bailey stir 'em up and fill their head with a lot of impossible ideas.
Right. Impossible ideas. Impossible ideas like what? Because this is the upside down. We are entering the upside down, where we are starting to see very clearly that the ideas and values that seemed very center, right? They were very central to what it was. They were central to our values. They were homegrown values. They weren't calling George Bailey a communist. Right? They weren't saying he was an evil baby killer. When he gives his famous speech to Potter.
Now, I say...
Just a minute. Now, hold on, Mr. Potter. Just a minute. Now, you're right when you say my father was no businessman. I know that. Why he ever started this cheap penny ante building and loan, I'll never know. But neither you nor anybody else can say anything against his character because his whole life was, why, in the 25 years since he and Uncle Billy started this thing, he never...
Remember I have to keep, I don't want to get in trouble with the, what is it? With the, who is it? I don't want to be cut out. So we have to take a little mini break there. But this is the famous speech when he fights for the working man. Do y'all remember that? This is what the vision I had when I meditated and did my remote views last night. And Spirit said, well, why don't you just ask the audience, who do you want to live next door to? And get off this whole political trip. Do you want to live next to George Bailey or do you want to live next to Jeffrey Epstein? Because our values... My values are with George Bailey. I think everybody, I don't think that we should take out a 50-year mortgage to buy a house. We need to get off attacking each other politically.
Once thought of himself, isn't that right, Uncle Billy? He didn't save enough money to send Harry to school, let alone me, but he did help a few people get out of your slums, Mr. Potter. And what's wrong with that? Probably... Here, you're all businessmen here. Doesn't it make them better citizens? Doesn't it make them better customers? You said that what'd you say just a minute ago? They had to wait and save their money before they even thought of a decent home? Wait for what? Until their children grow up and leave them? Until they're so old and broken down that do you know how long it takes a working man to save $5,000? Just remember this, Mr. Potter, that this rabble you're talking about, they do most of the working and paying and living and dying in this community. Well, is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a couple of decent rooms and a bath? Anyway,
Let's talk about it. Is he a communist? Is he an enemy of the state? Is he a threat to U.S. democracy? What is George Bailey asking for? So, if Bernie Sanders stood up and gave that exact same speech, what would be the Republican response? That's kind of where we're at right now. And I just think it's a teaching moment for all of us. I think it's a teaching moment for all of us that we have lost our way and we have to get. Oh, you think he's a socialist, communist? That's right. Well, if that, then I'm all for it. Uh, $5,000 to buy a house, right? $5,000 to buy a house in 1945 or whenever this was supposed to be. Was it supposed to be before or after the war? It was it was before the war. Okay, so we'll say it was like 1939. So what would $5,000 be? Somebody go ahead and Google it. What would $5,000 be today if it was, say, 1935? We'll say 1935. We'll be generous. And that was the average price of a two-bedroom, what was he say? A 2 to 3 bedroom house, right? So a poor working family would have a 3 bedroom house. Mom and dad would have their room. The boys would have a room. Remember that? And the girls would have a room. I remember this. I was one of 7 children. Bunk beds, right? So you'd have 2 bunk beds. That would fit 4 boys, right? I always wanted the top bunk bed. I fought for that bunk bed, right? 4 girls, 2 bunk beds, right? And you made it work. But the bathroom situation, you had 1.5 bathrooms. Remember that? What a nightmare that was. I think we had 1.5, and at one point we also had an outhouse, but nobody wanted to use it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, your first house you bought in Texas, Joel, was $5,000 in 1976. So, according to Google, thank you. Somebody went ahead and looked it up for us. Hi, Annie. Thank you so much for doing that. According to Google, he was saying that you had to come up with $118,000. Well, he makes a good point because if a person cannot get a savings and loan, cannot get, but the issue was interest rates, right? So George Bailey, his little company was offering really, really low interest rates. They didn't have much. He bought an old house that was going to be that they were foreclosing on, right? He and his wife, right? So they weren't living. The other thing about George Bailey was that he wasn't living any better than anybody else because they were keeping the interest rates down because they were trying to keep Pottersville at bay, those high interest rates that were going to create those slums. And so he became this symbol of fighting for the working man. And sounds an awful lot like Bernie Sanders, sounds an awful lot like AOC. And we have come so far from the center, I think, that those are considered radical voices today. What do y'all think about that? That's right. When you've got that many kids. So George Bailey, he had 5 kids, right? So he was a working class guy with a large family, right? His wife wanted a lot of kids and he didn't, right? He said, "Why do we have all these kids?" Right? Okay, so that is what we mean by the upside down. The upside down is just a kind of reassessing. It's interesting that the cards that keep coming to us right now are cards like we're getting a lot the Knight of Wands, this burning off of impurities, people that anytime people misabuse power this much, you'll start to see this the consequences of that, right? And then the spiritual work that we as humans have to do to ask ourselves about holding ourselves and others accountable when they misuse the powers that they've have been given. That we must always take the power we've been given seriously, or it will be taken away from us, and often in humiliating ways, right? Somebody had said, "I don't see them going to prison." Honey, you haven't been paying attention. Brunel died in prison and committed suicide. Epstein died in prison. Maxwell's in prison. Andrew, formerly known as Prince Windsor Mountbatten Windsor, he just got out of jail and is probably going to face prison, but it'll be under house arrest, which is just so damn British. It's just, well, open up a place for him in the Tower. Why not? Let him have a little garden. He can have a confessional once a day with his bishop. You know, his confessor. I mean, what they've planned for Andrew is just so pathetic, and he'll be able to get visits, but the king's pardon or the king's ability to push for a pardon is not going to happen. So they've basically, what have they said about him? He's done and dusted. I was watching the talk radio show, and what they say? They said a busted flush. I don't know what that means. A busted flush. It's some British term. I think that's what they were saying. That there's just no saving him. People had also asked if we could take a look at Fergie, so we can look at Fergie today as well. We're going back to the basics. We're going back to what we've gone so far to the insane. I mean, if you gave a George Bailey speech to a group and they didn't know what it was, to a bunch of Fox News producers, you'd be accused of working as a spy for China. All right. Is Fergie back because there's a possibility they've issued an arrest warrant? Yeah. Did you get the joke she made to Epstein? Pretty sick, huh? She's flirting with him, saying "marry me," and then she ends the joke she ends with a really sick joke, and the joke was, "You're the brother I always wanted." You know, a sibling with benefits. Yeah, you're the brother I always wanted. Yeah. So I'm, it's like when you quote Trump, people are like, "Why are you saying these horrible?" I'm just quoting them, right? I know. Yeah, you can't even. All right, we're going to go ahead and do the empath prayer, give you a collective reading for the week. This is a collective on the energies that are affecting all of us for the week. If anything I say today does not apply to you, you can just pass it down. We live in a collective. Carl Jung talked about the collective conscience. It's a smorgasbord of ideas that come to us. Anyway, just pass them down if it doesn't apply to you. And if you'd like to receive a healing at this time for you or somebody you love, go ahead and tell us your name or the name of the person you want us to pray for, and we will include them in our prayers today. Well, Epstein was a good-looking guy if you didn't know what he did. If you just saw some rich, tall, dark, and good-looking guy at a tennis club or something, you'd check him out, you know? I mean, he had a full head of hair. I mean, but she knew what he was, and that's what, that's the sickness, right? All right, let's do this. Let's bring in the empath prayer. Let's say it together. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, as a community, we say, Amen. And for those of you who are requesting a healing today, we come together at this time and we pray. We pray that you and those you love receive a perfect healing in mind, body, and in spirit. And together again, collectively, as a community, we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. May all souls be healed. May all souls be healed. All right. So I want to give you a food review today before we get started. Now, as many of you know, I am trying to reduce animal consumption. I think it's better for my soul. I'm still an omnivore. I haven't stopped being an omnivore, but I am taste testing various different flavors. So I did try some hot dogs that are vegan, and I want to give a review of them. Here is how I made the vegan hot dogs, okay? I created grilled onions, okay? I created some grilled onions, and I grilled them with cabbage, okay? I grilled them with cabbage. Okay, you can add a little sweetener. You can add maple syrup, honey, or brown sugar is best. And then a little bit of vinegar towards the end after everything is browned. So I grilled these vegan dogs with that, and I got the hamburger buns. I know, white flour, what can you do? And I stuffed those puppies with that and a little bit of Dijon mustard. Okay, my review is this. Does it taste exactly the same? Yes. I did not taste a difference. All right. So this is just one thing you can do if you really love hot dogs and you occasionally miss hot dogs. I would recommend, personally, I think the field roast plant-based stadium dogs are worth it. You get a pack of 6. I don't know what the price is. What is the price on it? Amazon usually is the same as Safeway. $7.78. So it's a little over $1 per hot dog. You know, that with, you can get yourself you can have that experience of having the stadium dog with the crowd. I did the whole thing. Now, in terms of protein, it's not equal. It's only going to give you 7 grams of protein. So if you do 2 dogs, I did 2 dogs, that's going to give you, 14 grams plus sausage and everything else gets you up to, plus the bread and everything else gets you about 20 something That's not bad. And then if you're doing nuts, seeds, and other things for protein. But honestly, I was very happy with my dinner last night. So You don't have to be a vegan, right? And you may not feel good on the lower protein diet. But what is nice is to just experiment, you know, like doing a protein shake every day. So that is what I like about protein shakes is that it's good for the epithelial lining of the heart, right? So we talk about the epithelial lining of the heart. And the benefits of a vegan diet have to do predominantly with this idea of what is good for the heart, what is good for the epithelial lining of the uh, arteries that bring oxygen and nutrition to the heart, right? So what we find is that the epithelial lining gets damaged with if you have too much arachidonic acid, too much acidic food, too much protein in the diet, too much animal fat, right? So, and we find that the epithelial lining can recover within about 21 days from that type of an insult, fried foods, animal fat, etc., oxidative stress, if you're consuming a predominantly plant-based diet. So, but the problem is that humans tend to need a little bit higher protein than what we see in a vegan diet. And unfortunately, humans have not been vegan, right? They haven't been vegan up until now. We don't really have any historical documents on any indigenous peoples that were vegan. The only time we see some veganism is in some monastic situations, which came much later. We see certain Jain communities were lacto-vegetarian. Now some of them are moving towards veganism. So you always have to supplement. We have to honor our ancestors. So if you are eating this way, you're going to have to supplement. So I recommend protein powders. That way you'll get your 20 to 40 grams of protein that way if you really don't want to be eating meat. I don't want my vegans to get nutrition deficient, like low protein. So something like this is usually what I recommend, particularly if you're recovering from something like coronary artery disease, high cholesterol. And usually I'll put almond milk unsweetened and some chia or hemp or flaxseed for omegas because we are seeing higher dementia rates with vegans. So vegans have a higher rate of dementia than we want to see, partly because they're living long enough to get dementia, but also because they tend to have a higher glycemic diet. If you're eating junk food, vegan food, a lot of it's just sugar and bread, etc. And that can, so if you're not careful, that can put you at risk for diabetes of the brain. Elevated sugar damages nerves and neurons. You know, that is what we know about too much sugar, right? So protein digests very, very slowly, and it slows gastric emptying, and this is why it's you may feel better after eating something with protein and feel more grounded. So if all of that is a problem, think about supplementation with a protein powder. But the reason that I feel good about this one is because of the nutritional support for your epithelial lining. The 40,000 ORAC oxidative reactive absorption capacity. It's for the free radical absorption capacity. And it is organic. It is certified organic. So this is where I go. You know, what I'm thinking is I think with my patients about things like adrenal support, adrenal fatigue. I see a lot of that with my clients that they have no adrenaline anymore. If nothing else, it happens because they just get the stress of daily life will do that to a person, you know. So I would say every client that comes to see me is getting treated for adrenal fatigue, where they just are burned out. So, whether you go with this or another protein and greens, think about, a supplement that's going to give you what we call the superfoods. So, the superfoods are going to be your berries. Berries have a low glycemic index, and what they contain is something called antioxidants. And an antioxidant will absorb a free radical, and a free radical is an oxygen-like species that's reactive. They're produced from stress, from burning too much fuel. If you eat too much food, for example, you can have more oxidative stress, radiation from being out in the sun, exercise, all of these things produce these damaging oxygen species, free radicals. And so antioxidants will neutralize them. It will neutralize the free. I won't go too much into the chemistry, but when we think about electrolyte donors, things that can neutralize that kind of damaging species in the body, we think about the berries and the greens, right? In terms of adrenal fatigue, if you're looking at the Chinese herbs, the Chinese medical herbs that have been studied, number one on the list is astragalus. Astragalus is safe. It's associated with asparagus. I think they're both in the same species. And it helps with loss of elasticity, which we also will see as we age. When we lose growth hormones and estrogen levels drop, we start to see loss of elasticity. The pelvic floor can also drop. So those types of conditions. Also rheumania, also given to women as they enter into too much heat or, a depletion of the yin, right? So harmonizing adaptogens also for adrenal fatigue. We think about Schisandra, rhodiola, ashwagandha, Erythrococcus, also known as Siberian ginseng. Those are the stress harmonizing adaptogens. Immune boosting mushrooms have been found to be protective against risk for certain types of disease and influenza. For example, agaricus has been found to reduce risk for certain kinds of viral infections. And shiitake has been helpful in reducing risk for certain types of cancer like carcinoma, sarcomas, etc. on the skin. So that is why we like having mushrooms on a daily basis, probiotics to just help with regulation of your digestion. So because this particular product had all of that, that is usually how I start my day. Sleeping, just the act of sleeping can cause increase in free radicals, right? Just living causes free radicals. So think about doing something like that. Like I said, the more you can lean on plants, the better for your epithelial lining, the better for your overall heart health. All right. Now let's give you a reading. Gotta take care of people. Gotta take care of people. That is what we are here to do. Whoops. What the heck is going on here? It's going up rather than down. Okay, let's see. Does that help? It was looking at the sky, and I was like, that's very strange. Very strange. Quite contrary. Quite contrary. You like your afternoon naps? Yeah, they're good. Afternoon naps are good. Lately, I haven't been having them. Derek Sarno. I love Derek Sarno, but Derek Sarno makes these complicated meals that are great for ashram. He's an ashram baby, but they're not good for a single woman who's 62 that doesn't want to cook. So bring out those vegan dogs. Delish. Not overly processed. That's why I decided to try it. And it turned out to be quite delicious. Yes. Mm-hmm. Happy to make a recommendation. Don't do a lot of processed food, but once in a while I want a stadium hot dog. Yeah. Delish. It was delish. All right, let's take a look. Where you are at right now, the base of the reading at this time is coming out of restriction. It's interesting that we keep using the analogy of the fact that we are in the upside down, right? We're in a different kind of place. I need to marry a cook. Ooh, that sounds nice. A vegan. I want to marry a vegan chef. Yes, that would be nice. Be aware that a lot of us could be feeling a lot of constriction right now. I know there's a lot of financial concerns. We really got hurt by those tariffs, right? Now we are seeing the reaction to those tariffs, right? Eight of Swords, a lot of people feeling strapped financially, red tape. But the nice news is we have a beautiful Magician card coming in as the base of the matter, which would be a karmic time of entering into your power. So you're coming out of whatever this was. I think that the business people that invested in Trump are no longer having any delusions about this guy. It was a fantasy. They thought that they were going to get great tax breaks and everything else, but now it's like, get him out of there. We no longer, maybe they want Vance. I know you guys don't want Vance, but I think the business world is heavily trying to sell whatever the idea of Vance, right? So, but I feel like people are going to be okay. I feel like the economy corrects itself. I really do, because the imagery that keeps coming is this idea of coming out of a restriction and entering into a time of power. So somehow we correct a lot of our economic challenges. It is a scary time though, because a lot of jobs that humans used to do, now it's just you're talking to artificial intelligence. How may I help you today? My name is Max. Just speak to me like you would normally. My name is Max, and I can assist you. And you know that you're talking to just artificial intelligence, right? King of Swords is interesting. It's a card that denotes discipline. It also is a surgeon or military person, right? It's Donald Trump's card because it can be an air sign male. He's a Gemini. I think that a lot of people are starting to become very disciplined over what it is they want to achieve in life. I think that the King of Swords often comes to us when we're being encouraged to be disciplined and pursue kind of, I will figure it out, right? That is the mantra of the Stoic. No matter how difficult things are right now, just keep giving yourself, you are an intelligent, empowered princess, prince, king, queen. You are that, right? So now is the time for us to put our heads together and say, okay, I'll figure it out. Right? That's the Stoic answer. You've just lost your house. You're on your own. Okay, that's my situation. I'll figure it out. Because this kind of energy of coming out of a restriction into a place of power, entering into a time of discipline, but also going to others for help. You know, Two of Wands is about partnership, it's importing and exporting. So, in addition to you doing what you need to do to work it out, know that there are partners and people that would like to work with you. They're going through, we all have something to share. Even if we don't have a house, maybe we have our two hands, we can bake a cake. But this is about coming together in partnerships and helping each other at this time. You can only be responsible for yourself, contrary to lunatics like Dr. Phil. You're not responsible for the fact that your ex-husband was a dork who pathologically lied to you or whatever. I mean, people are not robots. We're not children. Your ex-husband, wife, partner, or crazy parent or in-law or whoever is not a robot. We are adults. We can take personal responsibility for our behavior. That is kind of the Stoics' attitude. I didn't choose for you to be a dork. You did that all on your own. I'm out of here. right? So the Stoic also has an aspect. If you're looking at it, the Queen of Swords is very Stoic. She puts the past behind her. It's like, well, that didn't work. Okay, moving on. It's you could say that it has a brutality to it because the sword often comes in to terminate or remove things that are a blemish. You know what? I'm not happy with you right now. It's time that you say sayonara, ad wiedersehen, goodbye. I'm out of here. I don't like the. It has that ice king who has the ice sword that comes in as discipline and removes. It doesn't have a heart. It is a time of discipline. It cuts the restrictions. You know, if you're looking at Eight of Swords, it can often be economic constriction. You know, if a person has red tape, you're cutting that red tape. And I also like that idea of the magician because it's an individual who comes out of they come into their power. Have a 6 month plan. That would be my advice. Six of Wands, I read time and space with the wands. I don't know if anybody else is of that school. I'm thinking I need to write a book on just on tarot because I'm not happy with any of the tarot card books I read. I'm thinking maybe I should just do that for people. But I read wands as time and space, dendrochronology, and consequently, anytime you see a wand, it is addressing the place, it is addressing a location, and it is addressing a period of time, right? I know, pretty cool. So we're talking about you specifically from now to the next 6 months having a set goal for yourself that is realistic. I'm not talking about in the next 6 months you being a brain surgeon, unless you're in medical school doing that. But I'm talking about setting realistic goals. Where are you going to be in the next 2 months? Where are you going to be in the next 6 months? And they're being very specific with you. Focus on how are you going to get out of this mess. It's a 6 months period to get out of this mess and to take control. You're going to figure it out regarding any constrictions you have right now, whether it's physical mobility, physical constriction, or financial constriction. You're going to figure it out. And the other thing, the other message, the next 6 months is crucial. This is a time of intense discipline. You are not responsible for the choices of others, but you are responsible for your own choices, and that needs to be your focus the next 6 months. So Spirit is, in a sense, being very hard on us. Like I can sit around all day and play the victim. Oh, I'm all alone. Oh, my kitty cat. Oh. My life's actually pretty damn good. All right. Stop your kvetching, Dr. Anderson. So, did I blend properly? I just noticed. Yes, I'm fine. All right. One must look appropriate. All right. So, Two of Wands, like I said, focus on partnerships, reaching out to people that are going to help you in your goals over the next 6 months. Be disciplined, take personal responsibility for yourself. But from the natural order, from a modern Buddhist perspective, you are under no obligation to take responsibility for the free choice of others. If they're your children and they're minors under your care, that's something else because minors can't think for themselves, right? But we're talking about relationships between adults, right? All right, so the energy you're coming out of is discipline and self-employment and independence, trying to be as independent of other people as much as possible, right? Because the Seven of Pentacles is about mastery. It is the card of mastery, by the way, if you're wondering about that card, but it's also the card of discipline. And so we have a lot of serious cards about discipline coming in. The other thing I would say about the Eight of Pentacles, in addition to the fact that it has to do with mastery, and the person is just trying to create the most perfect beautiful, perfect creation there. He is the Tinker Tailor, right? He's trying to make the perfect thing. The other thing, and it appears to be a 6-month period of mastering your work. You can see it here. And developing partnerships. People are going to take you seriously when the work is serious. Take yourself seriously first. Who here is cooking Italian food? I can smell it. Is somebody here cooking like a Parmesan marinara? It's like coming in big. I'm like talking intensely. I'm mind connecting with one of you really intensely because I can actually smell the Italian food. So much so that I have to acknowledge it. Oh my God, you're making me want to make Italian food. Who is that? Coming out of great stress. Somebody is coming, you guys are all coming out of, you guys are coming out of a lot of stress here. Look at this. You've got that Eight of Swords and that Nine of Swords. I'm really sorry, you guys, that so many of you are really struggling like this. I really want you to hear this message from Spirit. You'll figure it out. Be disciplined. Be disciplined in your diet. Be disciplined in self-care. Break the yoke with anybody that thinks you're responsible for their crappy behavior. And go out and take care of yourself. That is what that is imperative you. Build partnerships with people that are allies that are going to help you get to where you need to go to, and vice versa. And what you're entering into a time of scholarship. The other thing that's coming in for many of you is the Hermit card. Hermit card is about knowledge or seeking more guidance. If it's a question on metaphysics, it's when you realize that anything you study intensely will eventually have a metaphysical component. Anything, oh, it was you, Susan? I could smell your spaghetti, and I was just like, I'm reading, and I start smelling energetically this delicious pasta sauce, and I'm like, who is this? And it got stronger and stronger and stronger. Did you make that sauce? It smells delicious. I'm sorry, I'm a remote viewer. I work from I'm a heart-centered remote viewer, so I get heart attached. And so I got carried into her kitchen and I got lost with the pasta sauce. Maybe I need to eat. I don't know, because I was like digging on that pasta sauce. All right. All right, let's fix this. Okay. We're back to square one here. Okay. So listen, so the Hermit comes in for you. That is the next 6 months that you are going to be studying. Somebody had asked, what does this have to do with me? Well, you are being asked to spend the next 6 months back in. How is this relevant to you? Spend the next 6 months mastering yourself. That would be, let me just find, I want to just check my stuff here. Okay. All right, I just got to check my stream and make sure it's okay. Checking a healthy stream. Gotta always check you at a healthy stream. So, in answer to the question, oh, you meant to say this is so accurate for you, not how is this accurate for you? Oh, good. That's okay, sweetie. So listen, I think that I know what Spirit is saying to all of us. That we can't save the world, but we can save ourselves, and in doing that, we save the world entire. Right? That's what the Talmud says. So, the next 6 months, work on perfecting yourself, perfecting your work, perfecting your mission in life. There is a Buddhist concept of a breach or violation that is discussed in the Go Show about not taking our work seriously, and I have been in violation. And many of you come into session and are in violation. And so that in and of itself is an incurring of bad karma, and that is what they want to talk about. And it's just, it's something very difficult to talk about. This idea that the biggest thing we struggle with is to take our work seriously as the Buddha, as royalty, right? This message from Spirit that the Ace of Swords is about recognizing the fact that we are the Buddha. It's a violation of the natural order when we don't take our work seriously as an expression of the Buddha. And it's the most common violation of the natural law. Why should I have to get up and go to work? Well, your work is important to someone. Your work has value, and not taking your work seriously is a violation. Because when you take your work seriously, you will do everything in your power to have it be mastered, to have it be excellent, to know everything you can about your work so that you master it. And they're talking about have that be a goal for the next 6 months, but reach out to other people. An example would be somebody who decides to enroll in school to learn a particular trade. That would be an example of a partnership that allows you to develop in this particular project that you're going to be working on. But this here, it is, I will work it out. I will work it out. I will work this out. Whatever this thing is, I will work it out. I will get my house in order. Very interesting cards today, you guys. Thanks for coming in. Thank you for today. It's a hell of a reading. Interesting also that the King of Pentacles comes in. King of Pentacles is an accountant. It's energy we see with Capricorn and Taurus. Taurus has that aggressive energy, but it also is grounded in the day-to-day activities of finance. And so a lot of us are doing our taxes. A lot of us are dealing with the IRS. A lot of us are dealing with the issues of coin, constrictions regarding issues of coin, issues that deal with the King of Pentacles. It's the immediate, I know I got to do, I don't want to. See, I'm in that boat. I don't want to do my taxes. I don't want my taxes to be due March 14th. Yuck, right? I got another group every quarter, right? I think it's March 14th. Am I right about it? So King of Pentacles is about the day-to-day discipline regarding issues of finance, frugality. He's the accountant. He handles the money. Yeah. It's intense. This is an intense time for us because it would be easier for us not to take ourselves seriously. Then we wouldn't have to get up in the morning and complete that painting. Right? It's interesting, once we did a remote viewing where we made contact with Vincent van Gogh because I wanted to know how Vincent van Gogh felt about the fact that his paintings had been desecrated. How do you feel about the fact that somebody had broken into the Prada Museum, and thrown tomato soup on your painting? And I heard his voice, and he said to me, Ms. Van Gogh said, "They threw tomatoes on my painting. They threw tomato sauce. They threw tomato soup on my painting." Yes. How do you feel about that? You mean they improved the painting? What an improvement. Well, do you have anything else to say, Mr. Van Gogh? More tomatoes. Right? That was my contact with the energy of Vincent van Gogh. More tomatoes. It's an improvement. Yes, yes, right? So he was somebody who had no respect whatsoever for his work, his life. He had no concept that that painting was going to wind up in that place. He thought that we had lost our damn minds. He's like, and then I had a vision as Vincent van Gogh. Do you have any idea where my paintings wound up? I don't know anything about this guy. They wound up where we store hay for the animals. And do you know what happened when we put it up there with the animals? The mice ate the paper. That's what happened to my paintings. My paintings mean nothing. My life meant nothing. So somebody threw tomato soup in my painting. Great, more tomatoes. Right? So the takeaway here is that sometimes we don't have a perspective, right, about the importance of our work. And I think that mystical experience with that soul left me pretty shocked because, I mean, my sister is a painter. And I've gone and seen these paintings with we traveled to Europe several times together. And one of the things is she wanted to see these paintings. And it changed her life so much. It got her on a plane. It got her to Europe. It got her to Britain. It got her, it completely changed her views on art, right? So as an artist, as a person, it changed some. But that's just one person whose life was changed by Vincent van Gogh. He had no concept of the fact that he would change lives, right? So that is an example of this Buddhist principle of being in violation. I mean, the truth of the matter is, listening to Dr. Phil blaming the victim is really in violation of your soul. You need to get away from people like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, anybody that is beating you down and telling you asked for it and telling you your work has no value and all you want to do is stay in bed all day, it's the exact opposite of modern 21st century Buddhism, which would be that it's in violation to be around abusive persons. You have to the best of your ability, get away from that. And it's in violation not to take your work seriously. So, Eight of Pentacles is that process of becoming the Buddha. The hermit is on the journey of the Buddha, right? So it's the fool who evolves and becomes the hermit. It's interesting that in the 10 worlds of Buddhism, 10 worlds of Buddhism, we say that there is an express elevator from heaven to hell, right? There's an express elevator from heaven to hell. 1 minute you're in heaven and he loves me, and then I'm out on a date with the hottest guy in the world. He loves me, and then he says, I haven't broken up with Barbara yet, right? Okay. And then all of a sudden, you're back in the world of hell, right? So, but we talk about mental states, that there are really 10 mental states you can be in, right? So the bottom of the barrel is the world of hell. And that's somebody who thinks that there's no hope. So this is somebody who might take their own life, right? Right above that is the world of hunger. The person still is willing to live in order to feed an addiction. So it could be an addiction to a person, it could be an addiction to a drug. They live to feed the hunger. And then slightly above that is the world of animals. They live for survival, eating, food, sex, right? They're just trying to survive. Then above that, you have Asura. And Asura is listening. God or demon found in Indian mythology, strong tendency to compare themselves with and a preoccupation with surpassing others. When they see themselves as superior to others, these people become consumed with arrogance and contempt. So this is the person who might be the malignant narcissist. So it's slightly above being an animal, right? But it's also the place at which you begin to learn. So it's like Eton, those young aristocrats learning that we're better than you are, we're better than you are, right? But it has aspects associated with the hermit because they are finally becoming educated. Then you have the world of human beings, which is just trying to be a decent person. Then you have the world of heaven, right? Where you're starting to enter the heavenly realm. It's interesting. The bodhisattva is the person who understands that my accomplishments in life affect others. Who am I to give up the dream? Who am I to say that my dream has no value? And then the world of the Buddhas, when we recognize that we are all connected, and so we are obligated to see to the happiness of others, right? So those are the paths of enlightenment. The heavenly realm, yes. I love that they say the heavenly realm is you can take an elevator, a direct elevator. Ever been on a date like that, a date from hell? Like it starts out great and the next thing you know, it's a freaking nightmare. Thank you everyone who has donated today. Yeah. All right. So hopes and fears, one's legacy, one's family dynamic, and Two of Cups. Find a new tribe. If people don't like you, if people hate you, maybe it's time to find a new tribe. Two of Cups is about new relationships and new beginnings. There's a lot here about new partnerships. Learn from past mistakes. I've talked very openly about the fact that I have many imperfections, right? One of my biggest problems is that I have severe social anxiety, right? This is my own personal thing. This is why I never do live theater, right? As a comedian, I've always done taped. I've always filmed because of the social pressure, right? So I have severe social anxiety, and because I have severe social anxiety, I'm often misunderstood by people I really care about because I'm constantly having anxiety in social situations. So that would be an example of my own life of how I can relate to the Eight of Swords. I have terrible agoraphobia. I've had a couple scary situations. Somebody grabbed me, took my wallet, right? So I had certain in LA, right? These things can happen. Walking down Sunset to catch a bus, right? And there was nothing in my wallet. I was so broke. But and then I've had creepy guys grab me when I was a kid, young, walking down the street. Somebody grabbed me. So I've had certain situations. That would be an example of how I can relate to my struggle, right? Looking at these cards as an Eight of Swords. I'm afraid to leave. What if somebody grabs me? What if someone grabs my wallet? Those fears are something that I can relate to, right? With that Eight of Swords. But when I think of on this today's meditation from Spirit and trying to be a good Jewish person, good Buddhist person, um, when I meditate on this, I think, okay, this is what the Torah talks about. This is what, that you just have to try to do your best. You don't have to be Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what we say. You don't have to be Moses. You just have to be the best version of yourself. You try, you do a little bit every day, right? So, but I like this idea of I will figure this out. Because who wants to spend the rest of your life fearful of the entire world? I will figure this out, right? I don't want to have social anxiety for the rest of my life, right? I want to be able to go out and maybe do a live performance one of these days. That would be cool, right? So we all have some restriction, right, in our internal self that we're struggling with, whether it's social anxiety or whether it's an economic challenge. But the underlining message from Spirit for you today is you're going to work it out. Go be with people that love and support you, that are going to help you on your journey. Take your path seriously. Take your work seriously. Do not be in violation of the law and say my work doesn't matter. It's not for you to, don't be like Vincent van Gogh. Take it seriously. He deprived us of those paintings, right? Because he left them up where the hay was stored and the mice ate the paintings, right? So now we will never see those paintings. So we learn from that, right? All right. Thank you, everybody, for staying and listening to your personal reading. You're on a good path. Fight for your dreams. Do not let them go. You must respect and honor them. So many times when you listen to the story of how Lady Gaga became famous, a lot of people didn't. She was getting older. People said she wasn't pretty enough. That she had people insulting her when she was playing piano, literally walking up and telling her they didn't like the way she looked. You're nothing special. You're a dime a dozen. You know, the crap that Lady Gaga put up with. She could have given up, right? You think about Lady Gaga. There never would have been a Lady Gaga, but she had that attitude. I'm going to figure it. My work matters. My music matters to somebody. The person that needs to hear this music is going to hear this music. It's not for me to judge. It's for me to master myself as an artist. The person that needs to hear these words will hear these words. My job is to develop my mastery as an artist. Then she went and did the Super Bowl, right? Born This Way, changed lives, kept one guy from killing himself, right? One guy was like, yeah, what the hell am I beating myself up for, right? Achieved enlightenment, right? So she saved lives by pursuing mastery in her path. And had she not taken herself seriously, who knows what would have happened to all those people that benefited so much from her art. That is your reading. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to sip some coffee and wait until I get the order, and then we will blitz, blitz, blitz away. Thank you all who are being here. There are 343 beautiful souls on YouTube, and I think a couple hundred on Facebook as well. Say hi to Susan Bulware over at Facebook. We have several others as well. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you everyone who's become a member of the Oracle of Whimsy. It really does help pay the bills, pay for Chuck, our co-host, to be here twice a week. And we appreciate that. Also, tonight at 5 p.m., we will be teaching remote viewing. We're going to be getting into the ethics and challenges of what it is to be a professional remote viewer. And we will be locating 2 targets, hidden targets. One will be a physical location, and one will be a person that you will be asked to locate using heart-centered remote viewing. That class for members will be tonight at 5 p.m. We look forward to seeing you there. Okay. While I get the order to blitz, blitz, blitz away, I'm going to drink my coffee. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, the coffee issue. A couple of you asked me to talk about that. I am now doing the Vietnamese coffee. You know, I'm always looking for a great cup of coffee. I think it's called the copper kettle. Is that right? Let me just, it's Vietnamese coffee. It's called something like the copper. Let me find out. Oh, copper cow. Okay. So this is the coffee that I ordered. It is expensive. It's $18. So you know you have Robusta beans and you have the Arabica beans. So I'm doing the Copper Cow Vietnamese Classic. This is the Robusta beans. I wanted something a little bit more full-bodied. So I'm getting back into the Robusta. I used to be a bit of a snob, only Arabica. And then I was honest with myself and said, you know, I kind of like a really good quality Robusta as well. So I got back into the Robustas and I found out that there are gourmet Robusta coffees out there. So this has got a great review. It's the Copper Cow Vietnamese coffee. You might like it. It's absolutely delicious. Other thing that people have talked about has to do with gourmet instant coffees. You know, there's a guy that started showing people how to make instant coffee that tastes good, right? And I tried a bunch of different ones, and so far I'm not happy with any of them. Maybe because I'm not, I don't know. But it's nice if at night you want to have a quick coffee after dinner and you don't want to run a pot or something like that, looking for a really good instant coffee. So this appears to be one of the best ones I've tried so far is the Araku Abumi. So the proper way to make them is to pour the hot water in the cup and then add a teaspoon afterwards. So what's going to give it a bitter taste is if you pour boiling water over it. And this is mycotoxin free. It's an Arabica bean. This is the highest quality instant you're going to get is the Araku. $11.99, it's 3.5 ounces, 1 teaspoon. This could last you a while if you're having it a couple times a week. But yeah, if you want to give an instant, if you want to try a gourmet instant, that's the one I'm trying right now. Yeah, it's good. At night, I like to have a coffee after dinner, and I don't want to run a pot, so I'll have an instant. So I'm giving instant a chance again. They say give instant a chance. So yeah. All right, Joel Tilson. Will the Nancy Guthrie case have a breakthrough soon? I think so. I think they know who did it, and I think that it's just a matter of time before they. I mean, I think that the people that did it know that the police know, and now it's just a case of evidence. Major transformation or change in the case could be that somebody talked. If somebody doesn't want to get a lesser sentence, yeah, the case is going to be broken because of cooperation from a witness. Knight of Cups is in the house of opposition, and that's to make a deal. Also, Ace of Cups is the offering of a deal. Death is transformation. Sun is to expose. So, yeah, I would say somebody took a deal. Maybe you're not going to go to prison for the rest of your life if you cooperate. Some kind of plea deal may have been made or something like that with a witness. Okay. I think that it's kind of a set thing that Iran is running out of time and taco, right? They call Trump always chickens out. He's worried about his reputation. Meanwhile, everybody knows how this is going to end because they've been planning it for years, right? They were planning this under Biden, right? So, what do? You guys want to talk about it? How do y'all feel about the fact that this is inevitable, the fall of Iran? Do you think everything was done in our power, the United States, to keep this from happening? I do. I do. I think that Obama did everything in his power to not dismantle Iranian leadership, to pay them not to kill each other, right? Can you take an old horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So that's kind of how you have to look at Putin and Iranian leadership in the sense that they were always going to be working to destabilize the West and paying Iran and Russia as part of the Board of Peace and all this other stupid crap doesn't work. And the warnings have been out for years not to do that, right? So this data is from 2023. This was given to Joe Biden. Joe Biden adopted the first three, right? This was Joe Biden here. Right? This was Joe. Joe did this, right? So they were moving in that direction. I'd be nervous. I would be very nervous because the Queen of Wands is coming. And the Queen of Wands is based on this idea of I seek justice absolute and boundaries. Remember, we talked about the fact that a wand is territorial, a wand is space and time. Travel, movement, hopes and fears, a treaty. I don't see it happening because we already decided it. It was already decided. It was already takes years to plan a military action like this. I don't think that they can get out of it. Queen of Wands is a war queen, just to let you guys know. There's the Ace of Swords always coming in these readings. I think if the lunatic supreme leader of Iran really gave a crap about his citizens, he would leave the country. Because if he doesn't agree to leave, the contract seems to be that he will agree to leave in order to ensure a peaceful transition. Yeah, because if he doesn't, it will get bad. The Chariot is there. The Eight of Cups would indicate it's very likely that the Supreme Leader will move off to. I wouldn't go to Moscow if I were him, but where else can he go? Who else would put up with him? And his crazy ideas? I don't know. Ukrainian forces are taking back captured territory lately. Is this a result of Russia's diminished military resources? Probably. I think it's really the end of Russia, isn't it? Putin really drove Russia into the ground, don't you guys think? Change is happening very quickly. Yeah, there's the Eight of Wands, which would also be like a quick. There's the treaty. No, Russia leaves. Five of Pentacles is also a poverty card, by the way. Anybody know anything about the Five of Pentacles? You know, you're always talking about coins, money, physical comforts fall under the category of the Pentacles. It's the sweet life. It's Lakshmi. The goddess Lakshmi is associated with the Queen of Pentacles, excuse me. Bringer of the coin, right? So, and luck, right? Like the Ace of Pentacles. Money is, that is how we think of the Ace of Pentacles. Also associated with the Ace of Diamonds. Those beautiful money and diamonds, right? So a Five of Pentacles is when you're locked out of the church and it's poverty. It's interesting that they're using that imagery to describe Russia because the church really has been desecrated in the sense that when what they did to the churches in Ukraine, pillaging the churches, stealing the icons and bringing them back to St. Petersburg. We're going to take our stuff back. It was a real splitting of the church. And it's interesting to see that imagery of the Five of Pentacles over Russia. It seems to be an indication of a rapid change in the situation in the near future that could result in Russia being impoverished or being forced to get out of the area. Interesting, that Five of Pentacles, man. Is this the last State of the Union? Okay, is anybody watching the State of the Union? The blabberings of a mentally ill man. He better have a nap beforehand because he gets that sundowning thing and then he starts to get really confused. Canceled his trip to Europe. Anybody surprised that he canceled a trip to Europe? Why is he canceling trips? Canceling one trip after another, Trump. Didn't go to the Super Bowl, didn't go to the Olympics. People say it's because he doesn't want to get picked on. Is that all of why he isn't flying as much as he used to? I think there's a medical component. I think he simply cannot fly as much as he used to. He has cankles, which is usually a sign of congestive heart failure. Certainly, he eats the diet of somebody with congestive heart failure, right? So he has a tower here, due to an investigation, if you really want to know the truth, because you've got a hermit in the seventh house. Also, health challenges with Archangel Raphael moving into eighth position. Hopes and fears, two of swords. This guy's refusal to change. Over the issue of an investigation, the courts come. It's not looking good. Over the issue of his obstacle, his main obstacle at this time stands with Archangel Raphael. That means his biggest issue is his health. Taking care of his health. Looks like he needs some kind of a surgery. He could be back in again for a minor surgery. Could be that they need to readjust his stents or something. Possible surgery going on here. Packing up and leaving. His administration is collapsing. Trump's administration is collapsing. I don't know why. Also, there's something about him packing up and moving. And he's like a pack rat. He's always taking stuff. You know, he collects stuff. That Ten of Wands, it's like he packs and takes it all with him. But he's got a tower and a health crisis that he needs to go take care of. Also, there's a legal issue under investigation regarding some issue with the courts that looks a little bit bizarro. So I don't think it's going to go well for him at all, the State of the Union. All right. Will Ukraine conflict end this year? Very likely, yeah. Because those cards looked absolutely terrible. It's just like when they have military parades, they don't use tanks anymore because they don't have any. Oh, God, I feel so bad for the Cuban people. They really are struggling. They can't even get bread most days. All right. What's going on with the people of Cuba? Cuba. They're hoping and waiting. It's kind of a waiting game. I don't. There's really not a lot they can do. Uh, I wish they would learn to grow more of their own food, or that they would. It would be great if they could grow their own grain. It would be nice if they could come up with a way to be more independent. King of Swords over them would lead me to think that they're working on becoming more independent. Not that they're being broken, but that, because it's that can-do King of Swords, slice out, discipline, heavy work. They are fine the way they are. You can either do business with them or not, but they will survive. It's that kind of an energy. Start growing grain in the Americas and start buying from other American countries that are not going to be bullied by the United States. But this is a desire to be independent. They want to continue to have American tourism, but you can't break or change us. It's that kind of a feeling. How advanced is Trump's frontal lobe dementia? They were talking about him showing signs of dementia his first term, right? So this is 8, 9 years, 10 years later. So that's a little scary, right? No, this is what, 6, 7, 8. How many years later is this? He served 4 years, left. Then there was a 4-year period. Yeah, so this is like at least 5 or 6 years after he was showing severe symptoms. So that it's not a disease you get better from, right? It's a chronic disease that advances. Very defensive. This guy is in denial. If he does have dementia, he's in denial about it. You can see that 7 of Wands is a defense mechanism. I feel like they built a case against him for Article 25, just like Epstein had said. They wanted Pompeo in. They wanted to get rid of Pence. We're right back there. But the letters confirmed that my remotes were correct, that they had been secretly working on Article 25. I think that he's in trouble and he could be forced to leave. You know, Chariot is over his karma in his house of opposition, and he's in a place of Seven of Wands defending himself. The queen who rubs her lamp is a really out to lunch, right? She can be out to lunch. The fact that there's an investigation, or the Hermit with the Three of Pentacles, also would make me nervous. Chariot, his karma is to move or leave, would make me nervous, right? So there's a lot of things in this card chart that if I were Trump, I would be nervous. Okay. Yeah, this is something that has come up and people have asked me to address it, was the issue of whether or not bodies would be found. I know it's pretty horrible, either on Epstein's Island or Zorro Ranch, and that they may have been destroying bodies. It's just another horrible chapter with the Epstein saga. Let's take a look. Well, you'll never find it if you never go looking for it, right? So people are pretty horrified that these investigations didn't happen. It's like the Congressman Lou asking about the limo driver whose daughter committed suicide out of Oklahoma. That specifically, that particular case, we showed you a reference to him. I think it was 2 weeks ago. He was actually Trump's limo driver, and he was threatened by Trump. So he got brought up by Lou in Congress the other day. All these people that have filed police reports, and there's been no FBI follow-up. So let's take a look. Something about victims being bound, gagged, killed. So the fetish wasn't just torture. Victims were tied up and tortured. They're arguing, you know, if you go into Prince Andrew energetically, they're arguing that they have a sex addiction, that is what caused this tying up victims. What's interesting is that it was seen as compassionate, that he supplied a service, that he understood their proclivities, and he was taking care of more. There's men that are going to be named that participated in some of these torture videos. This is a child, Page of Cups, child tortured. Evidently, the stuff that Andrew participated in evidently was filmed, and that is what Scotland Yard has, based on the pages can be children tied up. Devil, the man with the devil, the man of addiction, an investigation. He had partners, he had help. There comes Queen of Wands again, who seeks justice absolute. So I think that Epstein filmed everything as collateral against certain people, and that is what Scotland Yard has. Yeah. Will disgraced Prince Andrew give evidence of Trump's and other crimes on Epstein's properties? Well, he sees himself as the victim, right? He has a problem, and this guy was helping him with his little problem, right? Andrew is really worried. Shell shocked. He really couldn't he doesn't understand the big deal. Like, what's the big deal? Like, why are you he truly doesn't get it. He doesn't understand why people are treating him like this. He's really genuinely confused. Lost the people, lost the church. I really hope that the church is addressing this crisis. No, I didn't do it. Four of Cups refuses to acknowledge that he did anything wrong. It's the same as last week. He just doesn't think he did anything wrong. That's his prerogative, right? It's why it's called a sickness. Oh, wow. I don't think so. I don't think Putin has given Iran nuclear weapons, Joel. Um, just because Putin has his own damn problems. But let's take a look. No, but what I will say is that it's probably a really good idea for Iranian leadership to step down right now because if they're negotiating anything, it's the peaceful transition. I just don't see a future for the supreme leader in a future Iran. Yeah. 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 So 300 gallons of sulfuric acid ordered. That's something to think about. Well, there's certain things that it won't dissolve necessarily. It won't dissolve parts of the jaw, for example, might survive. So we'll see. It's a pretty horrible thing to talk about. Sulfuric acid concentrate. Yes, we worked with it when I was in pre-med when we were doing all kinds of strange experiments with that stuff. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Well, that was fun. Did you guys have fun? We were here for about an hour and a half, a little over an hour and a half. We had some fun. We got some readings in. Yeah. I think so. I think someone's going to leak his medical records. I think it's only a matter of time because they're done with him and because he's costing them money. All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging with me. If you're trying to get in for a tarot reading with me, you can find all the information below by contacting me through Booksy. It's real easy to make an appointment, and then I'll call you at the appointed time. Remember, I am in Portland, Oregon, so if you make an appointment, if you're in New York and you make an appointment for 2 o'clock, I'll be calling you at 5 o'clock your time. So always add 3 hours if you're on the East Coast, because I am on the West Coast. All right. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you for everything. Thanks for being here. All right. Be well. Bye-bye.